Does it make more sense right now to just wait before you buy a home, wait and see if there's going to be a big crash? Or should you jump in right now and try to buy a home? Or conversely, should you try to sell your home right now? Or should you wait till things kind of settle down a little bit before you jump into it? Well, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska. My mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today, what we're going to be doing is giving you a market update for what's going on here in the MatSu Valley, looking at the residential, the condo, and the multifamily market. Before we get started though, do give this video a like, do subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let's go and jump into it and see what's going on here in the numbers. So the first thing we're seeing on the residential side is actually a really favorable indicator, and this is really the only market in MatSu Valley. It's the only market that I've seen across the entire state where this has been the case, but we're actually seeing an increased number of inventory compared to the year before. This time last year, there's about 240 properties available on the market. This year, there's 280. So hallelujah. Hopefully that's a sign that things are going to start increasing and going back up in the near future here. I suspect that's probably more the result of new construction homes coming onto the market, more so than people deciding they're going to go ahead and sell and help us out with the inventory shortage. But I will take our wins anywhere we can get it. The second thing that we're seeing is that the number of properties that sold this time last year was 165, and this year it's 180. So number of properties being sold is going up, and that's actually, again, different from what we've seen in every other market where it's actually gone down a little bit, where the number of overall properties available on the market has crossed a certain threshold, and you can't just keep increasing the number of properties sold year over date. But the MatSu Valley hasn't quite crossed that threshold yet, so that's favorable. The next thing that we're seeing is that the average sold price across the entire MatSu Valley has gone from about $347,000 to about $370,000 for the same time period this year, which is roughly about a 6.5% increase year over date. And if we're looking at the year before, we were actually looking at about a 15% increase for the average sold price. So still seeing an increase, not as dramatic as what we saw in previous years. So this doesn't sound like this is obviously increasing by quite a bit. Especially when you consider the average sold price a couple years before was about $301,000. So yes, average sold price has definitely spiked quite a bit in the MatSu Valley. That's being driven by low interest rate and very high demand. Not a whole lot of options as we've seen in the previous inventory. Because while I was excited, we saw an increase in the inventory. It is still way down from what we've seen in previous years. It's just a trend I like to see, and hopefully we'll continue to see that going up to give some more options out there. Next thing that we're going to look at is what's going on in the condo market. So the condo market, same trend as what we saw on the residential side, much smaller scale though. So there were 4 condos that were available on the market this time last year. Well, now there's 5 this year. So yes, an increase, not a whole lot to start with though. Next, we're seeing that the number of condos that sold this time last year was 3, and now it's 4 this year. So again, seeing an increase, not a whole lot though. Last but not least, we're seeing the average sold price went from about $193,000 this time last year to $253,000 this year. So huge, enormous move right here. Makes it look like it's absolutely shooting through the roof. Calm down a little bit. I think this is more just because sample size obviously is not very big, and so that means we can have some newer, maybe larger condos that sold this year, and so it looks like it's really shooting through the roof. I have no doubt average sold price has probably gone up. I don't think it's quite gone up that much across the board for every condo. Okay, this is probably just not a very big sample size, but still a favorable indicator if you have a condo that you're wanting to sell. Let's take a pause real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a bit, you do know that I host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast, and I just want to know, why aren't you listening to that right now? Okay, as soon as you're done here, you need to go listen to it. Link for that is going to be in the description section down below. So make sure you go check that out. I talk with people about their authentic experience of what it's like living up here in Alaska. So do make sure you go check that out and see what this whole Alaska thing is all about. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on in the multifamily market. So across the board in the entire MatSu Valley, there were 20 multifamily properties available this time last year. Now it's 17. So not a big change, but it is dipping a little bit. Conversely, what we're seeing is that this time last year, there were 16 multifamily properties that sold in the past month. Now we're seeing there's 11. So not a huge shift. It's only a five difference, but again, smaller sample size, smaller numbers, so it's going to present a lot more dramatically than what you would expect for only a 5 property difference. Last but not least, we see the average sold price for multifamily properties in the MatSu Valley went from about $462,000 this time last year to about $468,000 for this time this year. So that's a little bit of a modest increase. I don't really look too closely at the average sold price increase, looking specifically at multifamilies, just because they include everything from the duplex all the way up to the big, multi-million dollar 30-plex out there, okay? It includes everything. So it's hard to really use that and extrapolate a whole lot of information from it. But what this information does tell me, though, is if this is really close, this tells me we have a certain type of multifamily that people are probably selling. And just from what I've seen available on the market, that's probably the duplex and probably the fourplexes that we see are selling right now in the MatSu Valley. The rents are very high right now. I was actually talking with Eric Boldman with Real Property Management from a recent podcast I did on the Alaskan Journey podcast. Link for that is in the description section down below. But in that podcast, he mentioned that the rents have gone up by about 33% in the MatSu Valley. So if you own a multifamily property in the MatSu right now, you're probably feeling pretty good about it, probably not wanting to sell it. And just because having higher rents makes a whole lot of bad things about the property just go away. So demand is going to remain pretty high for investment properties in MatSu Valley if they're in good shape and they actually cash flow. So I'm expecting to see that the appreciation for multifamily properties in the MatSu Valley is probably going to continue to appreciate at a pretty good rapid rate moving forward. So if that's something you want to do, let's go ahead and talk. Now, looking at condos, not a whole lot to report there. I think we're starting to see some newer condos pop onto the market as builders are starting to get the chance to meet the demand. I'm not expecting to see a huge influx of new properties hitting the market on the condo or the residential side just because of supply shortages and what we've been seeing. Unfortunately, that's really what's kind of holding up a lot of the production right now, at least on the building side. Now, on the residential side, I'm expecting to see that we're going to continue having more of the same. I know a lot of people have been talking about, there's going to be a crash, you need to wait. You'll wait at your own peril in a market like this. And the reason that I say that is that the people who told you to wait a couple of years ago, average sold price then was about 301. Now the average sold price is about 370. It probably wasn't a great idea to wait hoping there was going to be a crash, okay? This is completely different market, completely different factors and variables from the crash that happened back in the late 2000s compared to what we have now. And I know a lot of people are taking a lot of the lessons from there and thinking they apply here. They really don't. I'm not saying be stupid. Let's make sure you make good decisions on what it is that you're going with. But realistically, just with inflation being what it is and the supply remaining very low, I'm expecting to see those prices continue to go up. Maybe not at the same rate that we've seen them, but I would expect to see them continue going up. So if you're looking to buy, it's not perfect. Obviously, interest rates are going up. But if it were me personally, I would not wait, jump in, make it happen. That's what I'm doing for myself right now because I know that the interest rates are going to go up and I see no reason really why the prices would go down. The interest rates would have to be double digits before they really start to reel in the actual prices, okay? Because you've got supply and you've got demand. Bringing down the interest rates only kind of dampens the supply. It doesn't, or only dampens the demand. It doesn't do anything about the low supply, and that's really the big problem right now. So price is probably going to continue going up. Interest rates are going to go up, which makes it even more unaffordable. If you're waiting, hoping for this crash, wouldn't recommend it. If you are selling, couldn't be a better time to do that. jump in and let's make it happen for you. Just understand that once you flip around on the other side and you're trying to buy something, then that's when the piper's got to be paid. Let's talk about some strategies to help you do that, though. So I sure hope that this has been useful for you. Like I said, get this video a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.